was absolutely fantastic. He got quite a large audience, and he got each of the audience to tell him their names. And then he went out, and the audience changed places randomly. And then he came back in, and he asked any of them to stand up, and whoever stood up, he'd tell them their name. And that was absolutely fantastic. And afterwards he was interviewed about memory, and he said the human brain is sort of in two compartments. One has facts and figures and lists. He said, and that part of the human brain has a very poor memory. But the part of the human brain that has a good memory is the one that remembers drama and stories and songs and poems. And that's why all of us can remember a lot of songs. We think we haven't got a good memory, but we all remember thousands of songs. And he said, if you really want to remember anything, build it around a story. And he said, how many of you in the audience can name the planets out from the sun in order? And most of them couldn't. How many here could name the planets from the sun out in order? One.
Yeah.
So, Jude, do it for us.
Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto if you count it.
That's absolutely correct. Absolutely. After I told you this story, every one of you will be able to do that. You will. Because if you build it around a story, you remember it. So here's the story. Once upon a time, there was this silvery, slippery sort of metal lying on the ground, and a beautiful young lady saw it. She was very, very shapely, but she thought, I must see what that is. So she went out and she scooped it up from the earth, but it was just over her next door neighbour's garden. And he saw her doing it. And so he came out. He was a red-faced, very angry man, and he seemed to be very violent. And also, what made him more frightening, he was a giant. And this giant of a man seemed very threatening to her at first. He was wearing a t-shirt, and on the t-shirt was the word sun. S-U-N. But what made her calm down a little and not feeling quite so much was he had a ridiculous cartoon dog on his head. So if you think of that story, the slippery metal is Mercury, and she scooped it from the beautiful young lady is Venus, and she scooped it from the Earth, and the red-faced angry man, Mars, and he was a giant, Jupiter, and on his t-shirt was the word S-U-N, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and the dog on his head, Pluto. And you can remember that story, you can, and from now on all of you are better educated people.